Now, to the fallout from the decision in America to reverse a landmark legal ruling referred to as the Roe versus Wade case, which gave all women the right to access abortion. The ruling means that individual states can now choose to make abortion illegal, with 13 states doing so immediately after the ruling. The news was greeted with protests from pro-choice campaigners across the globe, including here in the UK. This week, the Labour MP Stella Creasy asked for access to abortion to be added to the forthcoming Bill of Rights. The move was dismissed by the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, who says the matter is settled in UK law. Today, we're asking, is access to abortion a universal right? Here to discuss those issues in the studio are Michael Phillips, a lawyer from the Christian Legal Centre, journalist and author Ella Whelan, and Claire McCulloch from the Good Counsel Network. And joining us remotely from Belfast is author and activist Kelly Turtle. Great to have you all here. Claire, I'll start with you. So we've seen protests in this country about what's happening in America. Boris Johnson said it's a big step backwards. Do you understand why people here are so worried about what's happened in America?
In some ways I do understand, because I think that abortion has been put forward as the solution to difficult pregnancies and all kinds of medical issues that women face for so long that, you know, current generations can't imagine a world without abortion. Firstly, I think it's not imminently likely that that's going to happen here. It hasn't actually happened in America. They haven't suddenly not got abortion across the whole of America. That's not what Roe versus Wade being overturned means. But also, I think, you know, it's a sad statement of our generation that we think that without abortion, women will not have access to help and support and rights. And I think it's time for the pro-life movement to show the actually fantastic help and support that we have available. And I think it's an opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah, and you're Catholic, so you have a faith, you're a Christian. Kelly, Donald Trump called the overturning of Roe versus Wade God's will after the ruling. The word Bible actually trended on Twitter. So we've heard from Claire there, we've heard from Donald Trump. Was this a victory for Christian values, would you say?
It certainly wouldn't be a victory for my Christian values as a practicing Christian. And I think we have to be aware that there's huge diversity among people of faith, people of all religions, when it comes to the issue of abortion. I study this issue. I interview people every day as to how they feel about abortion. I interview people of faith who've had abortions themselves, and there's huge diversity there. The scriptures in the Christian tradition don't actually prohibit abortion, so I'm not sure why Bible would be trending, because the Bible doesn't deal with abortion at all. And there are actually 54 religious organisations in the United States who came together and put in a joint intervention into the case to say that banning abortion would be a violation of many people's religious liberties, because other faiths like Judaism and Islam are actually much more nuanced and permit abortion in a whole range of circumstances. So the values of many people of faith are about compassion, understanding, love and justice, and many people understand the harm that it does when abortion is removed. And that's the values that I care about. Yeah,
Michael, compassion, love, understanding, because this can be framed, this argument, as the religious groups being anti-abortion and the rest being pro-choice. It's not that, though, is it? There are people, Christians around the world, who are campaigning on the side of the pro-choice people.
I think the thing is this, is that the Bible is very clear, the way that I see it, and I think that the way that the majority of Christian denominations around the world see it, and the biggest churches in the world, all have held to the line that you shall not kill. We should be looking after the most vulnerable people in our society, and it says a lot about a church, it says a lot about a society, the way that we treat the most vulnerable. And the pro-life movement has so much to offer. I have heard story after story after story in terms of the cases that I've done of women who've received no help and care from the organisations that they have gone to in order to receive so-called reproductive health care. Whereas when they have turned to some of the Christian doctors, some of the Christian nurses, some of the Christian organisations, they have received an immense care, an immense love for the situation that they're in. And that is what Christians have to offer for women in those particular set of circumstances.
Ella, I mean, that makes sense, does it not?
It doesn't make sense from a woman's perspective if she has an unwanted pregnancy, because the only solution to an unwanted pregnancy is to terminate that pregnancy, to have an abortion. And it doesn't matter, you know, I'm baffled by the idea that counselling, or, you know, some people relate to things, you know, that there has been a big surge in America about the suggestion of adoption, people turning up at protests saying, don't abort your baby, I'll adopt it, which is a completely ridiculous understanding of what it takes for, and I know at the moment, what it takes for a woman to go through a pregnancy and indeed give birth and become a mother. I think that, you know, we haven't said the F word yet, which is freedom, which for me is the most important thing in this, which is that a woman has, that should have the, not necessarily the universal right, but the universal freedom, because I think we might get into the rights discussion, the universal freedom to make decisions about her future, her body, make choices about what way she shapes her world and her life. And actually, that's a fundamental. I used to write for a magazine called Catholics for Choice in America, which does a huge amount of campaigning around this. And central to the religious perspective was a belief in conscience, and a woman being able to follow her conscience as to what is right. Now, I'm not religious myself, but I completely support the religious perspective and people's religious freedom to hold those views about abortion. But if you live in a secular society, religious people don't get to dictate what happens to the lives of women like me who don't follow those views. It's fundamentally about that F word, freedom.
Yeah, so it's about freedom. We've had people, the other F word, getting in touch on Facebook. So this is Stacey on Facebook, says, it's a woman's right to have control over her body. She can't even have that, then what can she have? So, I mean, it's a real point, isn't it, about the choice of the woman and maybe her right falling above the unborn baby.
Well, from a Christian point of view, I would say that, you know, God has created two lives in the case of a pregnant woman, her life and the life of the baby that she's carrying. And he infinitely loves them beyond all things and values them both. And that's what we're trying to honour here, the life of the mother and the life of the child. You know, Ella can say that it's ridiculous to offer adoption, and I understand your point of view, but something that the pro-life movement is constantly, you know, I've been asked 1 million times, how many children have you adopted? You know, the other thing we're asked is, what help do you provide to women? Well, we provide every kind of help, outside the box, amazing kind of help, housing and financial support and so on. But when we are saying that we're offering help, people are saying, no, there's no help. On the other hand, they're asking where the pregnancy centres are, and in the States, attacking them. So I would say that, you know, for women who aren't middle class, well off, you know, lots of the women we see are not making freedom related choices. They're making very much coerced choices, and that's not one or two, that's large numbers of immigrant women who don't have rights here, women in domestic violence situations. We're just putting another choice there, and in the States that's what's happening too.
Ella, respond to that.
I think that you raise an important point about coercion, but I just cannot get my head around that the solution to any of the problems you'd raised would be to coerce women into pregnancies, which is what happens if a woman doesn't want to bring a pregnancy to term, to become the birth mother, to, you know, go through, you know, let's not even play down the seriousness of labour. I mean, it's a serious physical challenge for lots of women, sometimes can end in kind of quite serious consequences. To force a woman to go through that seems to me completely against any kind of views, Christian or otherwise, but just on a fundamental point about the nature of a life and a woman's life. I think it's really important that even if you don't believe in God, that I don't, that you can understand that there is the potential for life within a pregnancy. But what we on the pro-choice side say is that you make a value judgment that says, what's more important, the right to life of the unborn, as pro-life has put it, or the value of the life and the choices of the woman who's an active citizen in society? And for me, the woman must always come first. I don't think we should shy away from saying that we are making a value judgment there, that women are more important.
It's a value judgment, Michael. It's unchristian to be telling a woman what she should be doing to her body.
I don't think anybody is dictating to any woman as to what she should be doing. I mean, I think as a society, Christians campaign, other religious people campaign, and secular people will often campaign and see the fact that science says that this is a child inside a woman. And so what about the rights of that particular person? Surely somebody should be looking and advocating on their behalf. And the fact of the matter is that women don't have freedom, because the women that we speak to as an organisation, very often they have not been told what the options are. They would love to know that there are options out there.
Yeah, OK. Well, is that your experience, Kelly? Because you've spoken to many people in that situation. Is that how you see it?
Well, it's very difficult to sit here and listen to Michael say that no one wants to dictate what women do with their bodies when I live in Northern Ireland, where that was our reality for 50 years. And we organised against that because we could see the harm that it was doing. Women's freedom was completely curtailed. Abortion was almost completely banned. And I became one of those women in 2016 when I had an abortion, and I had to travel to England for that. So I know exactly what it means to have someone else, to have the state and religious institutions dictate what you can and can't do with your body. And it was the United Nations Committee who we asked them to come and investigate those harms. And they were the ones who started the process of the UK having to change the law in Northern Ireland because the harm that was being done was so extreme. If any of your viewers saw the BBC drama Three Families, they'll have gotten a little glimpse into exactly what it's like when the state decides that abortion is not an option.
Yeah, I mean, that very briefly, Michael, that's the reality, isn't it? You might bring in strict rules, but people still will travel to, say, England from Northern Ireland when they had rules there to criminalise abortion. The reality is very different to what you're saying.
The reality is that the rules are brought in order to try and help protect people. And what I would say is this, is that with abortion, it is not something which happens without any consequences, even irrespective of your beliefs about the fetus. 80% of women, according to a recent study, have reported an increase in risk of mental health to themselves as a result of having an abortion. So it is not a cut and dry debate as many of our commentators here would like to make it out to be, because in fact abortion is not the solution to an unwanted pregnancy, we would say.
OK, and I think that's where we're going to have to leave it. We're out of time. It's a really good debate and one that will continue, and it's very emotive, so thank you all very much indeed.